Okay, week 6, and we move our attention to poetry. In honor of that, I thought I'd share a poem with you. It's one of my favorites by Robert Frost, and it goes like this. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and snowy lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Now, what is that poem about? Well, it's about a lot of things, but maybe it's just about you're working hard, you're heading home, you've got things on your mind, and you stop for a moment and enjoy life and I don't know, think about stuff. Some people say it's about death. Well, maybe it is, I don't know. But, it's definitely a thought-provoking sort of a thing. And to me, that's what good poetry is. It takes an idea. Frost could have said, sometimes when I'm going through the woods, I just stop and look around and say, wow, this is great, but I got to get back to work. He could have done that, but it wouldn't have been a poem. But instead, he takes an idea that we can all kind of relate to, and he uses language in a way that makes it powerful and memorable. And, I've memorized that. I can't memorize that much when it comes to, say, a part of a novel, but I can memorize poetry. Hebrew poetry is very different from English poetry. English poetry typically rhymes, it typically has a meter to it. Whose woods these are, I think I know, that sort of a thing. That's not Hebrew poetry, but Hebrew poetry is nonetheless powerful use of language to take an idea and merge it with the language and make it memorable. Here's the first of the Psalms. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. Not so the wicked. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. Now again, the psalmist, we don't know who it is. There's no traditional name even given as an author here. But the psalmist could have said, good people, good things happen to them. Bad people, bad things happen to them. That's it. But he didn't. Instead, or she didn't. Instead, we have this poetic rendering. Now, the poetry to some degree breaks down when you move from Hebrew to English, or Hebrew to any other language. And if you watch the video that I've put in here with Robert Alter and Marilyn Robinson, the Robert Alter part, Alter knows more Hebrew than he's forgotten more than any of us will ever know. Brilliant, brilliant Hebrew scholar, translator, and literary scholar as well. You get a sense from what I write about him that he's one of my real heroes and has drawn me into this sort of study. But he points out some of the technical aspects of the translation, why translation is so hard, and usually the people that translate for the Bible that you might be reading are not thinking, let's make a literary creation out of this. Instead, they're thinking, let's be fairly literal and get the ideas across, but not necessarily keep the music of the poetry in here. One of the reasons I kind of like the NIV, the New International Version, is that it generally does a decent job of keeping the poetry intact, where some of the others, they don't do such a great job. They might render pretty good poetry of their own, but it's not quite as musical, I guess. So as you go through here, try the best you can to understand what it is that's special, why this would have been something that would have appealed to the people that heard it. This was, these were their song lyrics that were probably sung or recited, or both, in religious observances, festivals, rituals, that sort of a thing. This is significant stuff, and that Psalm 1 is one of the two, what they call the double introduction to the Psalms. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll stop talking now. Have a great week, and read some Hebrew poetry.